All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And Zoomers, thank you very much for joining us this evening uh, for the learning of Parashat Hashavua, Parashat Tetse. We'd like to thank our hosts, Mr. and Mrs. Yossi and Mira Cohen. Thank you very much for hosting us. Tisula mitzvot. May your home always be open for bracha and shirei Torah and good things. Smachot, Hashem. Thank you for all those joining us. Also, tonight's shiur is sponsored by Dr. and Mrs. Hal Chadow. In honor, in Leilui Nishmat Hal's father, that's Menachem Leib ben Moshe, upon his yahrzeit, his first yahrzeit. May his neshama go higher and higher in Gan Eden. Hashem. Okay, all right. So I wanted to jump into, I think, a little bit of a perplexing part of the parasha over here. Okay, Kikach ish isha. Let's go through it together. A man takes a woman. Uba elea usnea. And then he has, welcome, Baruch haba. Uba elea, he has relations with her, and then he obviously marries her. Usnea, and he hates her. He doesn't like her. Now here's the big problem. V'samla alilot devarim. He now makes an accusation against her. Ve'otzi alea shem ra. He now gives her a bad name. Ve'amar, and he says, Et haisha azot lakachti. I married this woman, va'ikra velea, and I came close to her, I was with her. Ve'lo matzati la betulim, and I found out that by being with her, I found out she's not a virgin. Okay, now we're going to try to address this question. What is the issue here in terms of halachically? I want to talk about that soon. Velakach avi hana'ara ve'ima. So the father of the young girl. Now the word na'ara, you should all know. Na'ara means a girl between 12 and 12 and a half years old. So the father of this young girl, ve'ima, and the mother, they go ve'hotziu et betulei hana'ara el ziknei ha'ir hasha'ara. So they take out the betulei hana'ara. I know Yossi's going crazy. I know this is exactly what I brought it up, because when you read the psukim, it's like very hard to understand what's going on. So the hotziu, again, they take out et betulei hana'ara, the virginity of this young girl, el ziknei to the elders of the city, hashara to the gate, which usually refers to the bedin, because that's by the gate. Ve'amar avi hana'ara el hazekenim. And the father of the young girl says to the elders, Et biti natati la'ish hazeh. I gave over my daughter to this man. So, in other words, I betrothed her, I allowed her to become mekudeshet to this man, which means that, obviously, this halacha means that the father had received kiddushin money at some point before age 12 and a half. Because up until age 12 and a half, the father has the right to be mekadesh his daughter by receiving kiddushin money from somebody for her. So he can make her engaged, legally engaged, which is like a married woman. And I gave her to him, vayisnaya, and he hated her. Vehine husam alilot devarim le'emor. So he made this accusation, a false accusation, saying, Lo matzati lebitcha betulim. I have not found virginity for your daughter. In other words, when I married her, she was not a virgin. And these right now are the virginities of my daughter, meaning they're going to show, they will take the simla, which is literally a dress, but over here probably means something like a sheet, a bed sheet, right? And they put it in front of the elders of the city. They show, look, here's blood. Okay. So they take this guy and they give him a set of lashes. They make him pay 100 silver shekel. And they gave it to the father of the na'ara, of the girl, because he has given a bad name for a Jewish girl. And now this girl shall be his wife if she wants to. If she wants to stay his wife, she shall be his wife. Lo yuchal lishalcha kol yamav. And if he wants to divorce her, he cannot divorce her ever.
Why?
That's the rule. He was motzi shem ra on her. He ruined her reputation, and therefore she has the right to stay married to him forever if she desires to be married to him.
If she wants.
But if she do something wrong.
What?
If she doing something wrong.
Oh, so now that's the next part. What if it's actually true? Now here's the biggest question. And if it was so, that what? They didn't. There were no betulim for the girl, right? She wasn't a virgin. Yeah.
He cannot divorce her, right?
Right.
Let's say that girl with other man.
Oh, then they can't be married together anymore. Of course.
He cannot divorce.
No, then he must divorce. Yeah, correct. No, but what?
Only in the case that that he's lying.
Yeah.
If he doesn't lie,
no, he's saying, let's say that he lied, and now they're back together, right? So now he cannot send her away. But what if she cheated on him? God forbid. So now they have no choice; they have to get divorced.
Yeah.
Even then, okay. But if it was true, says the Torah, we're just finishing off the paragraph here. לא נמצאו בתולים לנערה, והוציאו את הנערה על פתח בית אביה. They take this young girl between 12 and 12 and a half out to the house, to the entrance of her father's home. וסקלוה, and they will stone her אנשי רע באבנים ומתה. She will die by stoning. כי עשתה נבלה בישראל לזנות בית אביה ובירתה הרע מקרבך, because she made a terrible act in the Jewish people to commit znut while she was still in the household of her father, which means an act of adultery, and you will remove the evil from your midst. This is heavy-duty stuff. Now, here's the obvious question. The problem here is, 1 second, let's say that she's not a betula. Let's say that she's not a virgin. That's not a death penalty. Let's say that somebody marries a girl and she wasn't a virgin. Let's say that she said she was, and then she was found to have lied. This is not a death penalty, right? You understand the problem here?
Why they want to kill her?
So why are they killing her? What did she do wrong? So one thing that you have to know is that whenever there's a question of a death penalty, that means we're talking about a case where there's adultery happening while she is at the very least mekudeshet to a man. So that means that she is in other words, the claim of this man about his wife is that right now she is mekudeshet to him, and while she was mekudeshet to him, she was with somebody else. Now, ordinarily speaking, in a regular case, when it's a regular married woman, the death penalty is chenek. Chenek. I'm sorry. Yeah, chenek. Chenek means strangulation. Okay? No. It means they take 2 ropes, they put it around the neck of the person, and they pull on both sides. We should never know. That's chenek. Now, that's the lowest form of the 4 death penalties. So what's this skila? Why is it skila over here? Over here it says they stone her. Okay? Over here, the reason it's skila, that's the unique thing of what's called na'ara ha'me'orasa, which means this is a girl that is engaged and she's in between age 12 and 12 and a half. If somebody commits adultery with her, in other words, she's mekudeshet to some guy at this age, and somebody commits adultery with her, then the punishment is not chenek anymore, it is skila. The only other type of death for a married woman that commits adultery is if she's the daughter of a kohen. If a daughter of a kohen commits adultery, God forbid, then her punishment is serefa, which means hot lead down the throat. We should never know. Shilonidah, bar minan, right? God forbid. Okay, but I'm just trying to clarify what is happening here. So it's saying something very, very severe. This guy is claiming that his wife, not only was she not a betula, but there's an added claim here. I can prove to you, he's saying, that she committed adultery while she was engaged to me already. I'll give you perhaps an explanation. The Gemara in Tractate Ketubot says that if a girl, God forbid, I don't know how this would happen, but if let's say a girl, God forbid, would have relations with a man before age 3, Okay?
So, yeah.
Let's say she's 2 years old, okay? So then if that would happen, if somebody would be with a girl that age, bar minan, right? So then the betulim would grow back. If it happens before age 3, her that part of her body would reconstruct itself at that point. Now, what happened is when she was born, or when she was a year old, he gave kiddushin money to the father, let's say. So she's been engaged to him since 1 year old, right? She's been engaged since 1 year old. And now he's with her finally, and she's not a virgin. So there's no time that they weren't engaged. That obviously, if somebody was with her, he was with his wife. And if it was before they were engaged, it would have grown back. It didn't grow back. Understand? So he's giving you proof that this happened while they were engaged. That's the thing over here. So he's making a really severe claim. He's actually, not only is he saying that his wife wasn't a virgin, he's saying his wife committed an act of adultery while they were engaged, which is the death penalty. Okay? So right now, this girl is actually fighting for her life.
These are the only proof you can tell. Well,
I'm just giving I'm just giving an example.
But Rabbi, this
Yeah.
is excuse somebody for this kind of crime is you need like at least 2 witnesses.
Correct.
So
To actually prove.
does he have
Correct.
2 witnesses?
Correct.
Also, another question.
That's correct.
Is it ever happened that they put girls to death like that?
I don't know. I can't tell you, but it's a good question. But you're right, of course. To actually kill somebody, you need 2 witnesses to say that we saw the act that she did. That's correct. But here, in other words, the point is that they're trying to prove that whatever they're saying that they saw the act was while she was already engaged to me, right?
Yeah, but the engagement is not Nesua.
It is, because Eshet Kiddushin is already Eshet Ish.
So Yoshin is Eshet Ish?
Yes, they can't have relations together, but it already is considered to be Eshet Ish. So anyway,
How about during this time, the guy also had a relationship with other lady?
remember, a man, according to Torah, technically, and definitely in the time of the Torah, could have more than one wife. You understand? A man could have more than one wife, technically.
If he gets married.
If he gets married, correct.
If not getting married.
Again, but the difference is that if there's never any way that a woman who is married could have relations with some other person besides her husband. That's the point over here. In other words, a man that is married could have relations with another woman if he marries her, right?
Married.
He has, again, in the time when polygamy was allowed. You understand? But that's a different discussion.
Well, how about if
1 second.
20 years?
One second. Let's just stay focused. We have a lot to talk about. Okay, so what I wanted to explain over here is a very interesting thing. First of all, let's discuss what is this simla. It says that they take the simla. What is this simla? They take this sheet and they put it in front of the zkenim, the elders, and they say, look, here are the betulim of this girl. What does that mean? Okay, so over here Rashi says, no, you got the whole thing wrong. There is no simla. There is no sheet over here. Harei ze mashal. This is just a mashal. Mashal means it's a concept. What's the concept? Mechuvarim hadvarim kesimla, which means that they prove it so clearly that she committed this action, right? She did the deed, and it's as clear as a simla, as a dress, as a beautiful dress, nice white, beautiful, clear dress. That the Rashi says. Okay. Okay. One second. It's okay. Guys. We have a lot to do. Guys. We have a lot to do. So again, Rashi says, guys, we have a lot to do. So it says uparsua simla. Rashi explains over here. It means that it was just a mashal. There is no sheet that they're showing in front of the whole world with blood. Okay, so that's not anything that's going on over here. And they explain why Rashi says that. Because there's a very basic problem. He says, what happens if they lost the sheet? If it really was a sheet? What happens if they washed the sheet? Who knows if this is the actual sheet? Who knows if the blood here is blood of Betulim? How do you know all these details, right? So comes along the Ramban, and he actually says no. There was a real sheet over here. There was a real sheet. Says the Ramban, no. This was a real thing. And he says the answer to these questions is that in the time of the Talmud, they had something called shushvinin. Shushvinin, these two individuals, their job was to hang outside the room when the Khatan and Kala were together. And the second that the act was over, they would go inside, they would take a look at the sheet, they'd take the sheet physically, and they would have it as.
So everybody was
kind
waiting
of-
for them to.
I don't know.
Everybody was
I'm
waiting for
telling
them.
you, I saw this.
Chechi,
The Ramban,
Chechi.
the Ramban said, the Ramban says
But he
this
said
clearly.
in Iran was like this, the rabbi.
He's saying in Iran it was like that.
In Iran, of course,
Everybody
This
was
is what
waiting
they
for
did?
them.
Uh-huh.
they show to father and mother of
Are you serious? Wow.
and the mother of wife she was keeping put somewhere.
So from the time of this must be
They
from
put
the
it
time
in
of
the
the
frame in
Talmud.
the living room or what?
They put somewhere.
How was that? Okay. So again, we have your machloket. We have a machloket between Rashi and the Ramban. Was there an actual sheet? Okay. So again, we spoke about the idea that this is a case of dinei nefashot. Now I want to point something out which is amazing. It's not me who points this out. If you look in Sefer Sharei Teshuvah, it's good to learn Sharei Teshuvah in Chodesh Elul. And the reason that we learn is because we want to do Teshuvah in the month of Elul. It's very important. And over here, if you want to see it inside Sharei Teshuvah, Shar Shelishi, Kuf Yud Aleph, he says the following thing. He says, V'ne'emar, I'll read it to you inside. V'anshu oto me'at kesef. We just read they will make him pay 100 silver coins. V'natnu la'avi anara, they will give it to the father of the young lady. Ki hotzi shem ra. Because what? Because he gave a bad reputation to this girl who didn't deserve it. Hine, says Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the most interesting points. Lo hizkira katuv cheto al asher haya mevakesh nefesh ha'isha. It doesn't mention the fact that he tried to kill her. If he's saying that she wasn't a betulah, that means, like we've been explaining, he's claiming that she committed adultery. That means he's trying to get her killed. He hates her so much, he's trying to get her killed. It's his own wife, but he's trying to kill her. It doesn't say that we punish him because he tried to get her killed. What did it say? Ki hotzi shem ra, because he gave her a bad name. Amazing. He's bringing false witnesses to do this. He's saying that she committed adultery. He brings false witnesses to kill her. What does he say? He says he gave her a bad name. Look at the words. This is a greater sin. Even worse than murder. You understand? The sin of doing the Shem Ra on this girl is even worse than having killed her. Why? Because the suffering of the shame the embarrassment is worse than the death. Our sages taught us the same thing, that for giving a bad name, they gave him lashes and a monetary payment. Not because he tried to kill her. The Yerushalmi tells us somebody who gives a bad name, he doesn't have a kapara forever. If he gives a false, again, motzi shem ra is a false accusation. You're saying a lie about the person. It's not true. So this is something the guy never gets kapara for. This is what the Sharei Teshuvah teaches us. How careful we have to be about saying gossip. It's an incredible thing. Now, where does it start from, Rabotai? What was the beginning issue over here? Let's read it one more time. How did it get to all this? It says clearly, Ki kach ish isha uba elea u sne'ah. He hated her. He hated her. So says the Torah Tmima. What happens is Avar al ve'avta l'reacha kamocha. He violated ve'avta l'reacha kamocha. The Torah says you have to love your fellow like you love yourself. That applies between me and you and him and all of us. How much more so a man to his wife? The Torah says you're supposed to have ve'avta l'reacha kamocha between you and your wife, and he didn't do that. So what happened as a result? He violated lo tisnat achicha bilvavecha. Don't hate your fellow in your heart. And then it eventually led him to shfichut damim, murder. He was trying to kill her. So the initial hatred, Rabotai, you see, is that that hatred is bringing him to murder. It's unbelievable. So he has to realize all of these things. He has to control his hatred from the beginning. By the way, how much is the ketubah of a betula? 200 zuz. Very good. So the word the Torah uses in the parasha is he has to give her, you'll see it in this week's parasha, ke mohar habetulot. Ke mohar habetulot means he has to give her the amount of the dowry of a virgin girl. So the ketubah, so the Mefarshim say, kama, kemohar is a combination of two words. Kama, reish. Kemohar, kama, how much is it? Reish. What's reish in Gematria? 200. And what's the ketubah value of a almana, a widow? Is 100. Very good, Joseph. Very good. So what's 100? Almana. Almana is you don't give her don't give her the mana is 100 zuz. So instead of 200 zuz, she gets 100 zuz. Almana, right? Don't give her the 100. Amazing thing. Everything is in the Torah. Okay, Rabotai. So what I wanted to just share with you here is that you see over here the power of Motzi Shemra, how devastating it could be. And the most important part of it is to not allow the hate to consume you so much, and to remember that, especially with a wife, it's the not let it get to that point, God forbid. Okay. Now, Rabotai, I want to go to another part of the parasha. Perek Chaf Gimel, Pasuk Tet Zayin. Take a look inside. Over here, there's a very interesting pasuk that I didn't really know much about before today. Pasuk tells us, Lo tasgir eved el adonav asher yinatzel elecha mim adonav. Random. Lo tasgir eved el adonav. Here's a person, he's a slave. He comes to you. You are not allowed to bring him back to his master. Asher yinatzel elecha. He's trying to save himself by coming to you. Mim adonav. You cannot give him back to his master. He's leaving his master. You cannot give him back. Very interesting pasuk. Anybody ever hear the...
What should he do with him?
This is a good question. Very good. Very good. So, lo tazgir eved el adonav. So over here, the Mefarshim point out a couple of very interesting things. So one of the Mefarshim says over here, including Rashi, Rabbeinu Bachya as well, Davar acher, he says, Afilu eved kenaani shel Yisrael, shebarach michutza la'aretz le'eretz Yisrael. So it could be one of two things. Either this is talking about a slave who belongs to a goy who ran to Israel, or even it could be a slave who belongs to a Jew who ran to Israel. And you live in Israel. So what's your mitzvah now?
Jewish or boy?
Two opinions. But either one seems to be accepted. La'alacha. So therefore, it comes out, here's a slave, he ran away from Chutz La'aretz, and he's coming to you in Israel. The Torah is telling you have a mitzvah, you are not allowed to bring him back to his original owner. So then what should you do? So what happens is, you keep him by you, not that he's your slave, but rather, he is now, you need to go to the owner or approach the owner or somehow get to the owner, and he should write a shtar shichur, which means a document of emancipation, that he's going to free his slave. And then the slave is going to owe him his personal value. So if let's say the slave had a value of, 200 silver shekel, so now the slave owes him the money, but he is no longer to be a slave of that person. And the idea is that when you come to Israel, you want to leave the idolatrous practices that you had before. So this fellow was a slave. He was serving somebody who made him be part of his family, worshiping idols and doing things like that. So he no longer has to do that. He's coming to Israel. He's going to become part of the Jewish society. He's going to leave everything behind. And now you have to help him to do that. Yeah.
But let's say the guy cannot find the owner.
Okay.
Okay. So what should he do? He's going to be a slave, suffering, or not?
So you can't give him back.
Okay, but he cannot
Yeah.
find.
Then
So he's going to be free.
I believe so. I believe so. Yes, I believe he'll be free anyway. Yeah.
If the slave in Israel, he run away from his boss
So then no.
to the
So then
other
no.
Jews.
And so then no. Then no. We're talking here about a guy that came from outside of Israel. So the Ramban says something interesting. The Ramban says that what happens was a lot of times the Jewish army would go to a certain place to wage war on a certain location, and the slaves of that location and the people who were in that location as captives, they were in jail, those people will run to the Jewish army to protect them and to save them from captivity or from slavery. So the Ramban says that they have a mitzvah to do this. They have a mitzvah to take in those captives. They have a mitzvah to take in those slaves and to bring them underneath Kanfei Shechinah, under to come to serve Hashem in Eretz Yisrael. That's this mitzvah over here. So they can help these captives. They can leave the land that is impure, and they can come do all the mitzvot in Eretz Yisrael. So they force the master to write a document of emancipation, and then the slave gives this person whatever money he was owed.
What if the slave can't afford it?
What?
What if the slave can't afford it?
If he wants to be free, that he actually owes them money. In other words, the Torah viewed him until this point as property of that guy. He has to pay his way out, and then meaning he owes. There's a debt that's created upon being freed, and he has to pay him that. Okay, all right, Tzadikim, very good. So this is a very interesting mitzvah. I thought I'd share with you. Okay, now let's turn to another incredible mitzvah in Perek Chaf Daled, Pasuk Tet. You know that this parsha has the most mitzvot in the entire Torah. No other parsha has this many mitzvot in the entire Torah. Okay, so the pasuk tells us, "Zachor et asher asa Adonai Elohecha leMiriam baderech betzetechem miMitzrayim." Remember what Hashem, your God, did to Miriam on the way out when you left Egypt. Remember, Rabotai, Miriam was talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, her own brother. How much did Miriam love Moshe Rabbeinu? She loved him so much. But what did she have to say? She said, Aharon, you're a Navi, you're married. I am a Naviya, I am married. Moshe, our brother, is a Navi, but he's not married anymore. He left his wife. Why did he leave his wife? So she equated herself and Aharon to Moshe. And then Hashem got mad at her. And Hashem said, you're going to have tzarat. 7 days, the whole Jewish nation had to stay behind and they didn't move forward because they were waiting for Miriam. The whole story that we read in Parashat Beha'alotecha. Okay. So Hashem tells us in Parashat Ki Tetse, remember what happened to Miriam. So what exactly is this mitzvah? What are we supposed to do in terms of remembering this mitzvah? So I'd like to share with you a couple of very interesting things. First of all, if you look in the Ramban over here, the Ramban says that this is a mitzvah just like any other time it says Zachor. For example, it says Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho. What mitzvah do we have as a result of that? Which mitzvah do we have? Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, one of the 10 commandments? That's true, but remember to sanctify Shabbat. How do we do that? By saying Kiddush, right? Another mitzvah, he says, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Remember that Amalek came and attacked you. How do we do that? We read Parashat Zachor before Purim. So he says, Zachor et asher asa Hashem Elokecha leMiriam is a mitzvah to say every day, I remember what Hashem did to Miriam. You understand?
Every day?
Yes.
When we said that?
If you look in the back of the Siddur at the end of Shacharit, it's there. Right. So that's one pshat. Remember, I remember what Hashem did to Miriam. And he says over here, this is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvat aseh, that now, exactly what you said, that there's a lav, there's a negative commandment that comes as a result of your obligation to remember what happened to Miriam. So it's exactly right to remember not to do lashon hara, and that's the reason that it comes right after the pasuk. Hishamer benega hatzarat lishmor meod velasot kechol asher yodchem hakohanim haleviim. Remember to be very careful about the nega tzarat, which means if somebody, God forbid, has a nega tzarat on his body, so he's not allowed to cut it off. He cannot take it off. He has to let it heal naturally, and that only heals by him doing teshuvah. So obviously, why did he get it? And we all know, because of tzarat. So therefore, says the pasuk, remember what Hashem did to Miriam, coming right after the nega, it came onto her because she spoke lashon hara as well. Now, I want to read to you the way the Rambam explains this mitzvah. If you want to look it up inside yourselves, it's Perek Tet Zayin from Hilchot Tumat Tzarat, Halacha Yud. The Rambam says the following. Let's see it together. He says, Ve'omer, Zachor et asher asa Hashem Elokecha leMiriam baderech. Harei hu omer. Look at what the pasuk is telling us, says the Rambam. Hitbonenu ma'ira leMiriam haneviah, shedibra be'achia. Remember what happened to Miriam, the prophetess, who spoke about her brother. Shayta gdola mimenu b'shanim. She was older than him in years. V'gidalto al birkea. She raised him on her thighs. She raised Moshe Rabbeinu. V'sikna be'atzma. She put herself in danger. La'atzilo min hayam, to save him from the sea. V'hi lo dibra bignuto. She didn't even say anything bad about him. Ela ta'ata. She made a mistake. Shehishvato l'shar neviim. She equated him to other prophets. Vehu, and Moshe he didn't even care about it. It didn't matter to him. Shenemar va'ish Moshe, anav meod. He was the most humble man, and he could care less what she had to say about him.
But actually, she didn't say lashon hara, kvod harav.
Oh, that's his point. Lo dibra bignuto. That's what he's saying. That's exactly what his point is. She just equated him to the other prophets. Even still, she got tzarat right away. Says the Rambam, how much more so to wicked, stupid people, that they start talking negatively about all kinds of other people. That's why it's so critical that if you want to do the right thing, stay far away from people that gossip and speak lashon hara. Disaster. Okay? So here says the Rambam, this is the message. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam, that she didn't even mean to do anything bad. She just had a wrong outlook, and yet she got the tzarat so fast and so quickly. Okay, so how much more so for all of us? We have to be careful. Another important chidush that I wanted to share with you is actually, it's a source of chizuk for all of us. Why is that? Because we're about to say something really amazing on Rosh Hashanah. We're about to hit Rosh Hashanah. We're going to say, Ki zocher kol hanishkachot ata. Hashem, you remember everything that everybody else forgot. You remember, Hashem. Nothing is forgotten by you. And the same thing is exactly what happened over here. Khatam Sofer says a beautiful pshat here. He says what happened is Hashem wants you to remember that Hashem doesn't forget anything. What happened with Miriam? With Miriam, the Jewish people waited 7 days for her to finish having her tzarat, for it to go away. Only then they went and traveled. I guarantee you, if you would ask Miriam, should they wait for you? She would say, no, you should go. Don't wait for me. Why would you wait for me? Who am I? No. We're waiting for you. and we're going to make everybody know that we're waiting for you. Why? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu was floating down the Nile River, you waited for him to see, is there anything that you can do to save him? And surely enough there was. When Moshe Rabbeinu was found by Bitya, the daughter of Paro, what happened? She ran up to her and said, should I get you a wet nurse to feed the baby? And who did she get? Her mother. She said, yes, she should go get a wet nurse. Moshe wasn't willing to nurse from anybody else. And then his mother came and he was willing to nurse. So she saved her own brother. So she waited even just a little bit of time. And it was her own brother. Obviously, she wants him to be safe. What's the big deal? No. Hashem doesn't forget anything. You did something good, you did something positive, Hashem will send it back to you and repay you for that. Even 80 years later, look how much time, this is so much longer. Many years later, Hashem repaid the kindness of Miriam. Doesn't forget anything. And it's very important to remember that as well. I read a story by Rabbi Pesach Kron in his book called Glittering World of Chesed. He says a very interesting thing. He says there was this boy that was coming from a not so religious family in Rhode Island. And he found out there was a trip to Israel, and he, maybe it was birthright or something like that. He goes on the trip to Israel, and they take him to the house of a rabbi, and they're sitting by the house of this rabbi, and he says to everybody, look, you guys have been here for Shabbat. It was so nice spending time with all of you. But look, you got to take something with you back to America. You're going back to America. You need to take with you a mitzvah, something that you're going to carry with you, even something very small, something that you can do. And I want you to think about it. So he goes over to this boy from Rhode Island. He says, tell me something. Maybe you could start to think about keeping Shabbat. He says, Shabbat, like you do over here, very hard for me. So maybe you could start to put on tefillin every day. He says, this is very hard for me. It's not so easy for me to do these things. I'm not used to it. I like it, but it's a challenge for me. So he says to him, you know what? What about tzitzit? You see this, I'm wearing a string on my corners over here of my garment, four-cornered garment. You put tzitzit on it. What about that? All you got to do is wear it every day. He says, you know what? I'll do that. He accepts to wear tzitzit on his body. He goes around, he goes to America. Everyone's asking him, what are these strings? He says, no, I took a mitzvah on myself. I just wear it. That's it. But it eventually started to get to him, why am I wearing these strings? And he started to look into it a little bit more, and he started to decide he wants to go to shul. So in Rhode Island over there, there weren't too many Orthodox shuls, and there was one that was, I guess a walking distance. He decided to go to that Orthodox shul, and he's going there. Now he gets to the shul, and he comes in, and he sees a name on the wall. And that name on the wall was actually his grandfather's name. And somebody in the shul comes in and says to him, do you know this person? He says, I never really met him, but I know this is my grandfather's name. He says, that was your grandfather? He says, yeah. He says, I'll tell you something. Your grandfather was a very special man. He says, really? He says, yes, your grandfather was a very special man. I'll just give you one example. He says, your grandfather would come to shul every week, and he had a huge bag of candy. And he always encouraged the kids to wear tzitzit. He says, if anybody showed him that he's wearing tzitzit, so then he would give him a candy. So he encouraged all the kids to wear tzitzit. And then what brought his grandson back to shul? The mitzvah of tzitzit. Amazing thing. Story from Pesach Kron. So he says, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're going to read it on Rosh Hashanah. Ki zocher kol hanishkachot ata. Here you are, you're investing in the mitzvah, tzitzit, you're getting the kids to do it. Little do you know that 2 generations from now, you're going to have a grandson, and that grandson is going to come back to Torah and mitzvot because of the one pair of tzitzit he got from some rabbi in Israel. It's an amazing thing. So therefore, Rabotai, we remember that Hashem remembers all of the different things that we do. So it's a source of chizuk for us. Remember, Zachor et asher asa Hashem Elokecha leMiriam. Remember that Hashem didn't forget the chesed of Miriam, that she waited to see that Moshe Rabbeinu should be safe, and as a result of that, We waited 7 days for her. Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Hashem forgets nothing, and therefore neither will He forget the good deeds that we all do as well. I'm going to stop over here, guys. I want to thank Yossi and Miriam Cohen for taking care of us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chazakim u'bruchim, and thank you all of our Zoomers for joining us as well. Thank you so much. Chazakim u'bruchim. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful evening.